The Untold Story of Osho. From rebel child to world's most controversial guru. A man who owned nothing became the man with 93 Rolls-Royce cars. A teacher who could barely speak became a speaker who filled stadiums. A spiritual leader who was arrested, poisoned, and thrown out of 21 countries. This is the true story of Osho. But wait, most videos show you only the Rolls-Royce cars and the controversies. They don't tell you about the small boy who was so different that his own family was scared of him. They don't show you the teacher who failed his first lecture because he was too nervous. And they never explain the real reason why powerful governments wanted him dead. Today, you'll discover 3 shocking truths. First, the childhood incident that made him fearless of death. Second, the 7 years he spent in complete silence that nobody talks about. And third, the secret illness that was killing him while he was changing millions of lives. By the end of this video, you won't just know his story. You'll learn how to break free from fear, how to think for yourself, and how to live life on your own terms. We make these videos after deep research, spending hours finding rare facts and untold stories. We explain everything in simple English, so you learn real lessons plus improve your language skills.
Section 1. The Rebel Child. Humble Beginnings. Let me take you back to December 11, 1931. A small village called Kuchwada in India. A baby boy was born. His name was Chandramohan Jain, but the world would later know him as Osho. His grandmother took him away from his parents when he was just 7 days old. She raised him for the first 7 years, and this changed everything. You see, his grandmother never said no to him. Never. If he wanted to play in the rain, she said yes. If he wanted to climb dangerous trees, she said yes. If he wanted to stay awake all night, she said yes. Other children were told what to do, but this boy learned to decide for himself. Other children were told what to think, but this boy learned to question everything. This freedom in his early years became the foundation of his entire philosophy of life. But then, when he was 7 years old, something happened that would haunt him forever. His grandfather died. The boy loved his grandfather deeply. He watched the body being taken away. He saw people crying, and he asked a question that nobody could answer. He asked, if everyone dies, then what is the point of living? Think about that. A 7-year-old child asking about death and meaning. Most children that age are playing with toys, but this child was already a philosopher. Then came an even bigger shock. His beloved grandmother, the woman who raised him, died just 2 years later. He was only 9 years old. He had now lost 2 people he loved most. The pain was deep, the confusion was real. But instead of becoming sad and broken, something else happened inside him. He became fearless. He thought, if death is certain, then why fear anything in life? This thought changed him completely. From that day, he decided to live without fear. He decided to question everything. He decided never to follow rules just because someone said so. What this teaches us: when you face pain early in life, you have 2 choices. You can become weak and scared, or you can become strong and fearless. Pain can break you or make you. The choice is yours. In your life, when something painful happens, ask yourself, what can this teach me? Don't run from pain. Learn from it. He went back to live with his parents, but now he was a different child. His father was a cloth merchant, a simple traditional man, and his son was becoming more and more rebellious every day. The boy refused to follow any rule that didn't make sense to him. In school, he questioned his teachers, not to be rude, but because he genuinely wanted to understand. Why should I believe this? He would ask. Where is the proof? He would demand. Teachers didn't like this. They wanted obedient students. But this boy was not obedient. He was curious. He was bold. He was trouble. One day, his teacher told the class, "You must never question God." The boy stood up immediately. He said, "Why not? If God is real, he should not be afraid of questions." The teacher was shocked. The whole class was silent. But the boy didn't care. He had started his journey of rebellion. His teenage years were even more dramatic. He would read books all night, philosophy, religion, science, poetry, everything. While other teenagers were focused on games and friends, he was focused on finding truth. He wanted to understand the meaning of life. He wanted to know who he really was. At age 14, he did something crazy. He joined a group that practiced dangerous spiritual exercises. One exercise was to face your fear of death. He went to a cemetery at midnight, alone. He sat there in complete darkness among dead bodies. Can you imagine? A 14-year-old boy sitting in a cemetery at midnight? Why? To conquer his fear. He sat there for hours. At first he was terrified. Every sound scared him. Every shadow looked like a ghost. But he didn't run. He stayed. And slowly the fear began to disappear. By morning he felt something new. He felt free. Free from fear. Free from society's rules. Free from other people's opinions. What this teaches us: your fears control you only if you run from them. But if you face your fears directly, they lose their power. Try this. Write down your biggest fear. Now ask yourself, what's the worst that can happen? Most of our fears are in our mind, not in reality. By age 17, he had read thousands of books. He knew more than his teachers. He could debate anyone and win. But he still hadn't found what he was looking for. He hadn't found inner peace. He hadn't found the truth about existence. All this knowledge was in his head, but his heart was still empty. He was still searching. And that search was about to take him on a journey that would shock the world.
Section 2. The Search for Truth, Struggles and Learning Years. Now, he was 19 years old, a young man full of questions. He went to Hitkarni College in Jabalpur to study philosophy. But college life was not normal for him. While other students attended parties, he attended meditation sessions. While others chased girls, he chased enlightenment. His professors didn't know what to do with him. He would challenge them in every class, not with disrespect, but with logic and questions they couldn't answer. One professor told him, "You know too much for your own good." Another professor said, "You will either become a great teacher or a great troublemaker." Both predictions came true. But despite all his knowledge, despite all his reading, despite all his debates, something was still missing. He felt empty inside. He felt like he was wearing a mask. He knew so much about life, but he didn't know how to live. He could talk about happiness, but he wasn't happy. He could explain peace, but he had no peace. This frustration grew stronger every day. He would sit alone for hours, asking himself, "Who am I? What is the purpose of my existence? Is there something beyond this body and mind?" Then came March 21, 1953. He was 21 years old. This was the night that changed everything.
Most videos don't tell you what really happened that night, but I will tell you the complete truth. He had been doing intense meditation for 7 days straight, barely sleeping, barely eating, just sitting, just watching his thoughts, just going deeper and deeper inside himself. On the 7th night, he went to a garden. It was called Bhavartal Garden in Jabalpur. He sat under a mulberry tree. He sat there in silence. Hours passed. Midnight came. Then suddenly, at around 1 a.m., something happened. He later described it like this: I disappeared. My body was there, but I was gone. There was no me anymore. There was only existence, pure consciousness, pure awareness. He sat there until morning in this state. When the sun rose, he opened his eyes. But now, those eyes were different. Something had shifted inside him. He had experienced what he was searching for. He called it enlightenment. He called it self-realization. He called it awakening. But here's what nobody tells you. After this experience, his real struggles began. What this teaches us: the moment you find your truth, the world starts fighting you. Why? Because your truth challenges other people's beliefs. Be ready for this. When you start thinking for yourself, people will call you crazy. Let them. Keep walking your path. After his enlightenment, he continued his studies. He completed his master's degree in philosophy. He stood first in the entire university. His intelligence was undeniable. Now he needed a job. He applied to teach philosophy at different colleges. But there was a problem. He was too controversial. He questioned religion. He challenged traditions. He spoke against blind faith. College authorities were scared of him. They thought, if we give him a job, he will create problems. Finally, Raipur Sanskrit College gave him a position. But within 9 months, they asked him to leave. Why? Because he was teaching students to think for themselves instead of just memorizing texts. The college wanted obedient students. He was creating rebellious thinkers. Then he got a job at Jabalpur University. Here he taught for 9 years, from 1957 to 1966. These were difficult years. He was paid very little money. He lived in a small room. He had very few possessions. But something else was growing: his reputation as a powerful speaker. He started giving public lectures in his free time. Small gatherings at first, 20 people, 50 people, but word spread fast. People had never heard anyone speak like this before. He didn't quote scriptures like other spiritual teachers. He didn't ask people to believe. He asked them to experiment. He asked them to question everything, including him. His lectures were different in another way too. He would answer questions for hours. Any question. No topic was off limits. People asked about God, about sex, about death, about marriage, about politics, about everything. And he answered everything with absolute clarity and fearlessness. But this fearlessness came at a cost. Religious leaders started attacking him. They said he was dangerous. They said he was destroying Indian culture. They said he was corrupting young minds. Some groups even threatened to kill him. Did he stop? No, he spoke louder. One incident shows his courage perfectly. In 1966, he was invited to give a lecture in Mumbai. A group of religious extremists came to stop him. They shouted, they threw stones, they threatened violence. The organizers were scared. They said, "Maybe we should cancel." He said, "No, I will speak."
He walked onto the stage. The crowd was angry and hostile. He stood there calmly. He looked at them. Then he said, "If you want to kill me now. But if you want to listen, sit down and listen." The crowd went silent. Slowly, people sat down. He spoke for 3 hours that day. By the end, many of those angry people became his followers. What this teaches us: courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is acting despite fear. When you believe in something, stand firm. The world respects strength, not weakness. Try this. Next time you're scared to speak your truth, take a deep breath and speak anyway. Your voice matters. But his journey was far from easy. In 1966, he resigned from his university job. Why? Because he wanted to dedicate his full time to teaching meditation and awareness. But this decision was risky. He had no steady income now, no security, no plan, just faith in his mission. His family was worried. His father said, "You have a good job. Why are you leaving?" He replied, "I cannot teach in a cage. I need to fly free." And he flew, but the flight was going to be turbulent. If you're enjoying this story of courage and rebellion, hit that subscribe button now, because we're just getting started, and what comes next will completely change how you see spirituality and success. Section 4. Darkness Before Dawn. Failures, Rejections, and the Commune. After leaving his job in 1966, he became a full-time spiritual teacher. But here's the harsh truth most videos hide. The first years were brutal. He had no money, no organization, no support system, just his voice and his vision. He traveled across India giving lectures. Sometimes he traveled in third-class train compartments, crowded, hot, uncomfortable. Sometimes he didn't have money for food. Sometimes he slept in railway stations. This was not the image of the rich guru with Rolls-Royce cars. This was a struggling teacher trying to share his message. And the attacks on him intensified. Religious leaders called him anti-Hindu. Politicians called him anti-national. Conservatives called him immoral because he spoke openly about sex and meditation. He received death threats almost every week. Some were serious. In 1968, during a lecture in Jabalpur, someone threw a knife at him on stage. The knife missed him by inches. The crowd panicked, but he didn't even pause. He calmly said, "This is how fear works. Someone is so afraid of my words that they want to silence me. But truth cannot be killed with knives." He kept speaking. Can you imagine that level of commitment? Someone just tried to kill you and you continue your lecture like nothing happened. But the biggest challenge was not physical danger. The biggest challenge was loneliness. People came to his lectures. People appreciated his words. But very few truly understood him. Very few were
ready to walk the path he was showing. He felt like a man speaking a different language in a world that didn't want to listen. In 1970, he moved to Mumbai and established his first meditation center. It was a small place, nothing fancy, but it was a start. He called his movement Neo-Sannyas. He asked people to become sannyasins, spiritual seekers, but to stay in the world, not to run to mountains or caves, to meditate while living normal lives. People started coming, slowly at first, then more and more. But with growth came more problems. His health was deteriorating. He had suffered from severe asthma since childhood. Speaking for hours every day made it worse. Some nights he couldn't breathe properly. Some nights he thought he might die from suffocation. But he didn't stop. Every morning he would sit and speak to his disciples. teaching them meditation, teaching them awareness, teaching them how to live totally, intensely, without fear. Then, in 1974, he moved to Pune. He established an ashram there, a place where people could come and meditate. This ashram would become famous worldwide. But the early days in Pune were not easy. Local residents didn't want him there. They protested. They said he was teaching wrong things. They said he was allowing immoral activities. Why? Because in his ashram, people were allowed to wear orange robes and live freely. Men and women lived together without traditional restrictions. This was shocking for conservative Indian society. The police harassed him regularly. They raided his ashram looking for illegal activities. They found nothing illegal, but the harassment continued. He was questioned. He was threatened. They wanted him to leave Pune. But he had found his base and he wasn't leaving. Something remarkable started happening in the late 1970s. People from Western countries started coming to Pune. Americans, Europeans, Australians. They had heard about this Indian mystic who was challenging all beliefs, who was teaching a new way to live. They came curious. Many stayed forever. The ashram grew rapidly. Thousands of people visited every year. But with this growth came intense scrutiny and vicious rumors. The media called his ashram a sex cult. They said terrible things. Some were lies, some were exaggerations, some had a grain of truth that was twisted. Here's what was really happening. Osho believed that society had repressed human sexuality for too long. He believed this repression created psychological problems. So he encouraged people to be natural and free. But he never encouraged immorality or exploitation. He taught awareness and consciousness in all aspects of life, including sexuality. But try explaining this to a conservative society. Try explaining this to a media that wanted sensational headlines. It was impossible. The label stuck. Sex Guru. This label would haunt him for the rest of his life. What this teaches us: the moment you challenge society's beliefs, society will try to destroy your reputation. They can't fight your ideas, so they attack your character. This happens to everyone who thinks differently. Don't let it stop you. History remembers the rebels, not their critics. By 1980, his health was getting worse. Asthma attacks were more frequent. Doctors said he needed rest. But he didn't rest. He continued speaking. He continued teaching. His body was breaking down, but his spirit was stronger than ever. Then, his personal physician, his closest advisor, suggested something radical. You need to leave India. The pollution here is killing you. The stress is killing you. We need to go somewhere where you can rest and rebuild your health. In 1981, he made a decision that would change everything. He decided to move to America, to start fresh, to build a new commune. People thought he was crazy, leaving a successful ashram in Pune to start from zero in America. Why? He had his reasons. He wanted to create a model society, a place where his vision could be fully realized, a place where people could meditate, work, and live in complete freedom. He called it an experiment in consciousness. But this experiment would become the most controversial chapter of his life, and it would nearly destroy him. Section 4. Rise and Fall. The American Dream Becomes a Nightmare. In June 1981, Osho arrived in New Jersey, America, but he didn't stay there long. His followers had purchased a 64,000-acre ranch in the middle of nowhere. The location? Antelope, Oregon, a tiny town with only 40 residents. They renamed the place Rajneeshpuram. This was going to be Osho's utopia, his perfect society, his experiment in consciousness. Thousands of his followers from around the world came to build this city from scratch. Doctors, engineers, architects, therapists, all working together. And they built something extraordinary. In just 3 years, they transformed desert land into a functioning city. They built homes, roads, a shopping mall, a meditation hall, an airport, a dam, everything. It was a miracle of human cooperation and dedication. But here's what people don't talk about. While they were building this city, Osho went into silence, complete silence. For 3 years, from 1981 to 1984, he didn't speak a single public word. He would only meet his followers in silence. He would drive past them in his Rolls-Royce cars and just wave. Yes, the Rolls-Royce cars. By this time, he owned 93 Rolls-Royce cars, the most expensive car collection by any spiritual leader in history. Why? This is the question everyone asks. Most videos show the cars and call him a fraud. But let me tell you what he later said about those cars. He said, "I accepted those cars as gifts from my followers. I used them to destroy people's image of what a spiritual person should look like. People think spiritual people should be poor and serious. I showed them you can be spiritual and celebrate life. Those cars were a joke, a statement, a rebellion against spiritual hypocrisy." Whether you agree with this or not, it was certainly shocking. The media went crazy. The rich guru, the Rolls-Royce guru. These headlines were everywhere. But this was exactly what he wanted. Attention, controversy, people talking about him. But while the world was focused on cars, something dark was happening inside Rajneeshpuram. His personal secretary, Ma Anand Sheela, was gaining tremendous power. She managed everything. She controlled who could meet Osho. She controlled the finances. She controlled the community. And absolute power was corrupting her absolutely. In 1984, things took a sinister turn. The commune was having conflicts with local Oregon residents. These residents didn't want thousands of strange foreigners in their small town. They tried legal ways to shut down Rajneeshpuram. When legal methods didn't work, Sheela decided to fight back, but her methods were criminal. She planned to take over the local government. How? By bringing thousands of homeless people to Rajneeshpuram, registering them as voters, and winning the local elections. This was voter fraud on a massive scale. But it gets worse, much worse. When this plan didn't work well, Sheela and her team did something unthinkable. They decided to poison the local residents to prevent them from voting. In September 1984, they contaminated salad bars in 10 restaurants in the Dalles, Oregon, United States with salmonella bacteria. 751 people got sick. Some were hospitalized. It was the largest bioterror attack in United States history, and it was done by people in a spiritual commune. Can you believe that? People who meditated every day, people who talked about love and consciousness, they poisoned innocent people. But Osho didn't know. He was still in silence. He trusted Sheela completely. She told him everything was fine. She told him the commune was running smoothly. She hid the crimes from him. In 1985, the truth started coming out. Federal investigators began investigating Rajneeshpuram. They discovered the poisoning. They discovered wiretapping. They discovered immigration fraud. They discovered plans to murder people who opposed Sheela. It was shocking. When Osho learned what Sheela had done, he was devastated. On September 14, 1985, he broke his silence. He held a press conference. He publicly accused Sheela of crimes. He said she had betrayed him and the commune. Within hours, Sheela fled to Germany. But the damage was done. The commune was destroyed. Federal authorities raided Rajneeshpuram. On October 28, 1985, Osho was arrested. The charges? Immigration fraud. He had allegedly arranged fake marriages for his followers to help them stay in America. He was put in chains, handcuffs and leg chains. A 53-year-old spiritual teacher treated like a dangerous criminal. He was moved from jail to jail across America. 12 days in custody. Some of those jails were in terrible condition. He later claimed he was given food that tasted strange. He believed he was being poisoned with thallium, a heavy metal that causes slow death.
On November 14, 1985, he agreed to a plea deal. He was fined $400,000 and deported from America. He was never allowed to return. His American dream was over. His utopia had collapsed. His grand experiment had failed. What this teaches us? Power corrupts. Even in spiritual communities, even among good people, never give anyone unlimited power over you. Always question, always verify, always stay aware. Blind trust is dangerous, even in spiritual matters. Section 5. The final years. Legacy, impact, and transformation. After being deported from America, Osho became a man without a country. He tried to enter 21 different countries between 1985 and 1986. Every country either denied him entry or kicked him out within days. Why? Pressure from the American government. They sent messages to governments worldwide saying he was dangerous. Greece arrested him. He hadn't committed any crime there, but they arrested him anyway. Uruguay accepted him, then changed their mind. Portugal, Sweden, England. Every door closed. Can you imagine? A man who once had thousands of followers and 93 Rolls-Royce cars now couldn't find a place to stay? He was heartbroken. He was humiliated. He was physically sick from the suspected poisoning in American jails. His health, which was already fragile, now deteriorated rapidly. But something beautiful happened during this difficult time. His followers didn't leave him. They stayed loyal. They fought for him. They proved their love was real. Finally, in July 1986, he returned to India. Back to his ashram in Pune. Back to where it all began. He was 54 years old. He looked tired. He looked defeated. But his eyes still had that fire, that intensity, that awareness. He resumed his morning talks. But now his message had changed slightly. He was softer, more vulnerable. He openly talked about his mistakes. He admitted he had trusted the wrong people. He admitted the American experiment had failed. This honesty was rare. Most spiritual leaders never admit mistakes, but he did. If this story is touching your heart, show your support by hitting the like button. It helps us bring more powerful stories like this to you. From 1987 to 1990, these were his final teaching years. He spoke about meditation with even more clarity. He created new meditation techniques. He answered thousands of questions. He wrote books. He was preparing his legacy. But his body was failing him. The suspected thallium poisoning had damaged his immune system. He developed severe diabetes. His bones became weak. His asthma was worse than ever. Some days he could barely walk. Some days he needed pure oxygen to breathe. Yet he kept teaching. In 1989, he changed his name one last time from Bhagwan Rajneesh to just Osho. He said Osho came from the word oceanic, representing the dissolving of the ego into existence. This was his final identity. This was who he truly was. Not a god, not a guru. Just Osho. Just awareness, just presence. His last year was painful to watch. He was dying, and everyone knew it. His body was shutting down, but his consciousness remained clear. His awareness remained sharp. He continued teaching until he physically couldn't anymore. On January 17, 1990, he gave his last public discourse. He couldn't speak much. He was too weak. He sat in silence mostly. Then he said a few words about meditation and awareness. His final message was simple. Be yourself. Be aware. Live totally. 2 days later, on January 19, 1990, Osho's body gave up. He died at age 58. The official cause was heart failure, but many believe the real cause was the slow poisoning in American jails. His body was cremated. His ashes remain at his ashram in Pune. Before he died, someone asked him, "What will happen to your work after you die?" He smiled and said, "I am just a beginning. My work will continue for centuries. I have ignited a fire of awareness in thousands of hearts. That fire cannot be extinguished." And he was right. Today, more than 30 years after his death, millions of people still read his books, still practice his meditations, still visit his ashram in Pune, which is now called Osho International Meditation Resort. His videos have millions of views on YouTube. His words are translated into dozens of languages. What this teaches us? Your physical body will die, but your ideas, your impact, your love, your work can live forever. Don't chase temporary success. Build something that lasts. Create value that outlives you. Your legacy is not what you own, it's what you give. Who was Osho really? This question is still debated. Some call him an enlightened master. Some call him a fraud. Some call him a philosopher. Some call him a cult leader. Some call him a rebel. Some call him dangerous. Maybe he was all of these things. Maybe he was none of these. Maybe the truth is more complex than any label. What's undeniable is his impact. He challenged religion. He challenged tradition. He challenged society. He challenged everything. He taught millions of people to meditate. He made spirituality accessible to modern people. He combined Eastern wisdom with Western psychology. He spoke about sex, love, meditation, and awareness with a clarity nobody had before. Yes, he made mistakes. The Rajneeshpuram disaster was a huge failure. The crimes committed by his followers were terrible. His trust in Sheela was blind and foolish. He was not perfect. He never claimed to be. But his core message was powerful and timeless. He said, "Don't believe in any religion. Don't follow any guru blindly, including me. Experience truth yourself. Meditate. Become aware. Live fully. Love deeply. Don't waste your life following others. Become yourself." This message resonates today more than ever. In a world full of noise, he taught silence. In a world full of doing, he taught being. In a world full of followers, he taught rebellion. What this teaches us? Don't judge people by their worst moments only. See the complete picture. Learn from their wisdom. Learn from their mistakes. Take what helps you, leave what doesn't. Nobody is completely good or completely bad. We are all complex. We are all human. And final message. Remember at the start when I told you about a man who went from nothing to 93 Rolls-Royce cars? Now you know the complete truth. The struggles, the vision, the success, the failure, the controversy, the legacy. Osho's life teaches us something profound, that success and failure are both temporary, that reputation and criticism are both external. What matters is internal. Are you aware? Are you living your truth? Are you free from fear? He started as a rebellious child, questioning death. He became a teacher who questioned everything. He built communes that failed. He was loved by millions and hated by millions. He died in physical pain, but in spiritual peace. His body is gone, but his message lives on. Now I want to ask you something. What lesson from his life will you apply today?
Will you start questioning the beliefs you've blindly followed? Will you face your fears like he did in that cemetery? Will you stand up for your truth even when the world attacks you? Will you meditate and find inner peace? Tell me in the comments below. I want to know what inspired you most in this story. Here's my final thought. Osho once said, "Don't seek, don't search, don't ask, don't knock, don't demand. Just relax. If you relax, it comes. If you relax, it is there." Your life is your canvas. Your choices are your colors. Don't paint someone else's picture. Paint yours. From a small village in India to ashrams around the world. From 0 Rolls-Royce cars to 93. From loved to hated. From alive to eternal. This was Osho, a rebel, a teacher, a mirror, a mystery. If this story inspired you, share it with someone who needs to hear it today. And subscribe for more true stories that change lives and improve English. Your journey of growth starts now. Thank you for watching. Keep questioning, keep growing, keep living your truth.